Merry Christmas everyone, or maybe Happy New Year depending on when I upload this. Either way, today I want to dive into my favorite Christmas movie. It's become a personal favorite of mine over the years, Christmas with the Kranks. When people think of holidays classics, they usually either bring up Home Alone, Elf, or Friday After Next, which I love too, but there's something about Christmas with the Kranks that stuck with me. When I watched it, the first time I watched it as a kid, back then I thought it was a funny Christmas movie, but as I got older, I realized it's much more weird, chaotic, and unintentionally hilarious at times. For me, that's what makes it a cult classic. I vividly remember watching Christmas with Kranks when I was younger. It was one of those movies that my family put on during the holidays, and at the time I didn't think much of it beyond the surface level humor and the slapstick moments. Tim Allen is a grumpy dad, and Jamie Lee Curtis plays a frantic mom, and their antics were fun to watch, at least for me. And the whole idea of them skipping Christmas was so wild as a kid. Like, who would ever want to skip Christmas? But as I rewatch it years later, it's taken on a whole new charm to it, that it loops back around and becomes amazing. The more you pay attention to it, the more funnier it gets, not always in the way it intends to. Let's start with the plot. Luther and Nala Krank, played by Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis, decided to skip Christmas for a year, and go on a cruise instead. Sounds simple, right? Nope, this decision sets off a chain of reactions that turn this quiet suburban town into ground zero for chaos. The way the neighborhood reacts to this is honestly one of the most wildest parts of the movie. These people don't just disapprove of the Kranks' decision, they treat it like personal betrayal. The Frosty the Snowman situation is the best example of this, in which the neighborhood gets mad for them not putting up Frosty as if it's some sort of law. Neighbors just don't suggest that the Kranks should put up their Frosty, they demand it. They start forming a mob, chanting "Free Frosty" like he's Thugger. And then they start stalking the Kranks at every single turn. It's like some sort of Frosty cult, where not having a plastic snowman on your roof is considered a cardinal sin. It's honestly great for like how stupid it is. And that's really why this movie feels like a cult classic to me. Everything escalates so dramatically over something as small as skipping Christmas. The movie doesn't even try to make the story realistic, it fully leads into the absurdity of it. It's like watching a holiday themed version of The Twilight Zone, where the Kranks are the only sane people and everyone else is just brainwashed by Christmas cheer. The only funny thing is that the more ridiculous it gets, the more entertaining it gets, at least for me. It's one of those movies that make you laugh sometimes and laugh at other things that honestly is part of the charm of it. What else is hilarious is how their plan to avoid the stress and chaos of Christmas does the exact opposite. Instead of simplifying their lives, Luther and Nora end up creating even more stress on themselves. They're hiding from carolers and dodging their neighbors, dealing with casserole disasters, leading up to the last minute realization that their daughter is coming home for Christmas. This is where the movie taps into the deeper truth about the holidays, that even if it feels overwhelming, there's something magical about the chaos that the Kranks attempt to run away from, that being Christmas, and actually brings them closer together in spirit with the season. What really makes this movie special for me is the nostalgia of it. There's a certain early 2000s holiday movie charm to it that you don't really see much today. The humor is broad and the tone is lighthearted, and there's always room for a heartwarming message buried beneath all the chaos. Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis bring us so much energy to their roles that it honestly makes it great to watch, especially Dan Aykroyd as the overbearing neighbor leader, and the whole leader of this Frosty cult. For me, Christmas with the Kranks is the perfect blend of like intentional comedy and unintentional absurdity. It's the kind of movie that gets funnier the more you think about it, and it becomes a staple of my holiday season. Not because it's the best Christmas movie per se, but it's because it's entertaining, even when it's not intentionally supposed to be entertaining, really. There's something endearing about a film that doesn't take itself too seriously and it's just chaotic fun. So that's why Christmas with the Kranks is a cult classic to me. It's a movie that I can laugh at, laugh with, and I can enjoy year after year. Whether you're watching it for nostalgia or the comedy, it's just sheer ridiculousness, and it's one of those films that has something for everybody. What about you? What did you think of Christmas with the Kranks? Does it deserve a spot on the holiday movie list, or does it go under an underrated favorite? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, happy holidays, and don't forget to put up your Frosty, otherwise